I watched my agent happily click the I'm not a robot button. I made the agent very aware. Like it knows what its source code is. It understands how it sits and runs in its own harness. It knows where the documentation is. It knows which model it runs. It understands its own system. That made it very easy for an agent to, oh, you don't like anything, you just prompt it into existence. And then the agent would just modify its own software. People talk about self-modifying software. I just built it. I actually think vibe coding is a slur.
You prefer agentic engineering?
Yeah, I always tell people I do agentic engineering, and then maybe after 3 a.m. I switch to vibe coding, and then I have regrets on the next day.
Well, a walk of shame.
Yeah, you just have to clean up and like fix your
moment when you built a prototype in 1 hour. That was the early version of OpenClaw. I think this story is really inspiring to a lot of people because this prototype led to something that just took the internet by storm and became the fastest growing repository in GitHub history with now over 175,000 stars. So what was the story of the 1 hour prototype?
You know, I wanted that since April.
A personal assistant, AI personal assistant.
Yeah, and I played around with some other things, like even stuff that gets all my WhatsApp, and I could just run queries on it. That was back when we had GPT 4.1, with the 1 million context window, and I pulled in all the data and then to ask them questions like, what makes this friendship meaningful?
Mm-hmm.
And I got some really profound results. Like I sent it to my friends and they got like teary eyes.
So there's something there.
Yeah. But then I thought all the labs will work on that. So I moved on to other things, and that was still very much in my early days of experimenting and playing. You know, you have to, that's how you learn. You just like, you do stuff and you play. And time flew by and it was November. I wanted to make sure that the thing I started is actually happening. I was annoyed that it didn't exist, so I just prompted it into existence. And then the agent, I made the agent very aware. Like it knows that it is what its source code is. It understands how it sits and runs in its own harness. It knows where the documentation is. It knows which model it runs. It knows if you turn on verbose or reasoning mode. Like I wanted to be more human-like, so it understands its own system. That made it very easy for an agent to, oh, you don't like anything, you just prompt it into existence. And then the agent would just modify its own software. You know, we have people talk about self-modifying software. I just built it. I didn't even plan it so much. It just happened.
Can you actually speak to that? Because it's just fascinating. So you have this piece of software that's written TypeScript.
Yeah.
That's able to, via the agentic loop, modify itself. I mean, what a moment to be alive in the history of humanity, in the history of programming. Here's the thing that's used by a huge amount of people to do incredibly powerful things in their lives. And that very system can rewrite itself, can modify itself. Can you just like speak to the power of that? Like, isn't that incredible? Like, when did you first close the loop on that?
Oh, because that's how I built it as well. You know, most of it is built by codecs, but oftentimes when I debug.
I think you said somewhere that it might kill off 80% of apps.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's a gigantic transformative effect on just all software development? That means it might kill off a lot of software companies.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing. So, like, do you think about the impact that has on the economy, on just the ripple effects it has through society, transforming who builds what tooling? It empowers a lot of users to get stuff done, to get stuff more efficiently, to get it done cheaper.
There's also new services that we will need, right? For example, I want my agent to have an allowance. Like, you solve problems for me, here's like $100 in order to solve problems for me.
We talked about programming quite a bit, and a lot of folks that are developers are really worried about their jobs, about the future of programming. Do you think AI replaces programmers completely, human programmers?
I mean, we're definitely going in that direction. Programming is just a part of building products. So maybe AI does replace programmers eventually, but there's so much more to that art. Like, what do you actually want to build? How should it feel? How's the architecture? I don't think agents will replace all of that. Yeah, like just the actual art of programming, it will stay there, but it's gonna be like knitting. You know, like people do that because they like it, not because it makes any sense. So I read this article this morning about someone that it's okay to mourn our craft. And a part of me very strongly resonates with that, because in my past, I spent a lot of time tinkering, just being really deep in the flow and just like cranking out code and like finding really beautiful solutions. And yes, in a way, it's sad because that will go away. And I also got a lot of joy out of just writing code and being really deep in my thoughts and forgetting time and space and just being in this beautiful.
Like, where's this headed in terms of what we value about the human experience? It feels like we'll move more and more towards in-person interaction, and we'll just communicate. We'll talk to our AI agent to accomplish different tasks, to learn about different things, but we won't value online interaction because there'll be so much AI slop that smells and so many bots that it's difficult.
Well, if it's marked, then it should also be difficult to filter. And then I can look at it if I want to. But yeah, this is like a big thing we need to solve right now. Especially on this project, I get so many emails that are, let's say, nicely agentically written.
Yeah.
But I much rather read your broken English than your AI slop. You know, of course, there's a human a lot more. And then you have all these people that are screaming, oh yeah, but what about the water? You know, like I did a conference in Italy about the state of AI, and my whole motivation was to push people away from, don't see yourself as an iOS developer anymore. You're now a builder, and you can use your skills in many more ways. Also because apps are slowly going away. People didn't like that. Like a lot of people didn't like what I had to say. And I don't think I was hyperbole. I was just like, this is how I see the future. Maybe this is not how it's going to be, but I'm pretty sure a version of that will happen. And the first question I got was, yeah, but what about the insane water use on data centers? But then you actually sit down and do the math. And then for most people, if you just skip one burger per month, that compensates the CO2 output or like the water use in the equivalent of tokens. I mean, the math is tricky, and it depends if you add pre-training, then maybe it's more than just one patty, but it's not off by a factor of 100, you know? So there, or like golf is still using way more water than all data centers together. So are you also hating people that play golf? Those people grab on anything that they think is bad about AI without seeing the potential.
Its power, in large part, comes from the fact that you can give it access to all of your stuff and give it permission to do anything with that stuff in order to be useful to you. This is very powerful, but it is also dangerous. OpenClaw represents freedom, but with freedom comes responsibility. With it, you can own and have control over your data, but precisely because you have this control, you also have the responsibility to protect it from cybersecurity threats of various kinds. There are great ways to protect yourself, but the threats and vulnerabilities are out there. Again, a powerful AI agent with system-level access is a security minefield, but it also represents the future, because when done well and securely, it can be extremely useful to each of us humans as a personal assistant.
Infinite.
Right.
I feel like I built my little playground. Like I never had so much fun than building this project. You know, like you have like, oh, I go like level 1 agentic loop. What can I do there? How can I be smart at queuing messages? How can I make it more human-like? Oh, then I had this idea of, because the agent always replies something, but you don't always want an agent to reply something in a group chat. So I gave him this no reply token. So I gave him an option to shut up. So it feels more natural.
That's level 2.
Yeah. On the
Factorio.
on the agentic loop, and then I go to memory, right?
Yeah.
You want them to like remember stuff. So maybe the ultimate boss is continuous reinforcement learning, but I feel like I'm level 2 or 3 with markdown files and a vector database. And then you can go to the level community management, you can go to level website and marketing. There's just so many hats that you have to have on. Not even talking about native apps. That's just like infinite different levels and infinite level ups you can do.
So the whole time you're having fun. We should say that for the most part, this whole thing we have going on, the human civilization.
I mean, I inspired so many people. There's this whole builder vibe again. People are now using AI in a more playful way and are discovering what it can do and how it can like help them in their life, and creating new places that are just sprawling of creativity. I don't know, like there's like ClawCon in Vienna. There's like 500 people, and there's such a high percentage of people that I want to present, which is to me really surprising, because usually it's quite hard to find people that want to like talk about what they built, and now there's an abundance. So that gives me hope that we can figure shit out.
And it makes it accessible to basically everybody.
Yeah.
Just imagine all these people building, especially as you make it simpler and simpler, more secure. It's like anybody who has ideas and can express those ideas in language can build. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's ultimately power to the people, and one of the beautiful things that come out of AI. Not just a slop generator.